Hi Bill, this is Greg. Hey, I'm going to make a couple of videos real quick here to explain a few more things about dies, because I don't think the email that I typed out on my phone last night maybe covered all your questions. You certainly can buy used dies, but I want to show you what to look for on them because they are prone to getting worn or at least some abuse that can lead to some frustrations and problems, especially when you're new to reloading. You want to eliminate as many variables as you can to have early success, and then as you go on down learn all the fine details of reloading, you can kind of expand how things happen and how they work and understand the problems. But I think for your first one you probably ought to buy a nice set of dies, and just so you eliminate any problems. But what I have here is a Redding, and I think it's one of the better brands. And it's their deluxe set for rifle. It includes 3 dies. 2 of them are nearly the same. You use one or the other, but not both on any one given reloading session. The third one is the seating die that seats the bullet. The other 2 are a variation of the sizing dies. So one of these, and I'm not sure which one is which without looking at it, this is a neck only die. So let's cover the full length one first. This is the kind of the standard process. I'm going to zoom this back out a little bit. Maybe get a little better depth of field. The first thing that happens is as the brass enters the die is as it gets towards the bottom, before the brass is really touching any of the internal parts, the primer gets knocked out from the inside. So boom, primer's gone. The next thing that happens is this portion, the neck, enters the neck portion of the inside of the die, and it shrinks this neck down fairly undersized, actually too much. It shrinks it down to a bigger press fit than you want. And then as it nears the bottom, it'll knock the neck back to the size and to the length, because the brass is expanded in all directions, both diameter and length to a certain degree. It'll knock that back, and it'll full length size this to fit any chamber. So you always want to use a full length resizing die for semi-automatics so that the cartridge will get in and out of the chamber quickly without hanging up. You don't want it hanging up going in, don't want it hanging up coming out. Once you've resized the full length, you resize this on the way back out. There's that little mandrel on the inside that supports the depriming pin. It's got a taper on the other side that actually, as it draws through the neck, it expands the neck back out to a nice precision diameter, probably about 2/1000 press fit for the bullet. So that's kind of how the full length sizing die works. Now, rifle dies generally aren't carbide. They generally don't have any kind of a treatment on them. So you need to lube your brass, and you need to keep your dies nice and clean. And you want your brass to be very, very clean to start with, and this one is not. This one still has some cleaning to do before I'd run it in the die, because you can see it's a little tarnished. It's got soot. It's not horrible, but I would clean this before I ran it through my dies, because you don't want any of that soot, which may have some hard crystal or oxides in it, to deposit into the steel and start leaving hard spots that will scratch and ruin your brass and wear and tear on your steel. So you use it. There's all kinds of lubes. I like Imperial sizing wax for rifle. You also sometimes will lube the inside of the neck for that sizing die too. All that has to be cleaned off when you're done. You can put it back in the tumbler and clean it off. You can use ultrasonic cleaner. You can wipe it off with a rag. Some people just soak them in alcohol real quick and wipe them off. But you need to get that sizing lube taken off, and so they're nice, clean, and dry. Very dry too. You don't want, because water will puddle in the primer pockets. It'll puddle in the bottom there. Powder and water don't mix. So, and if you're drying your brass, don't dry over 150 to 200 degrees temperature, because you can anneal the wrong part of the brass. A lot of people will flame anneal the end here that gets so much sizing done, and that's fine. but this end of the brass better not get soft or it'll explode. The only difference between the die that I showed you and the neck only is the neck only does just what I said. It only sizes the neck and the seat back, the sit back on the neck here. So when it goes in, it fits snug but not tight on the body, and it leaves this body full size for a bolt action rifle. That's got some advantages because you usually only use it in the rifle. You use the same brass in the same rifle every time. You don't mix it around. So when this is fired, it expands, shrinks back slightly as it cools. By not sizing that, and the next time it goes in, it's very centered up in that chamber. It also allows you to put more powder in. Some cartridges, like the 308, when you're shooting fairly hot loads, there's actually hard to get enough powder in to get to the maximum for the cartridge. So by not sizing that down, you can get a few more grains or tenths of a grain of powder in. And it's kind of a nice thing. But this thing, if only being neck sized, probably wouldn't go in and out of a semi-automatic without getting hung up. So that's those two dies. And the last one is the seating die, and all it does is here's a piece of brass that has been sized. The bullet, I can just set it in there, but I can't push it in. And so as the seating die comes down, it'll connect somewhere on the ogive of the bullet and press it in a nice straight alignment into the brass and let it set at the proper length. It's pretty critical to have the length correct. Most people start out with whatever the manual states because it'll fit inside your magazine. But as you get more experienced and you are trying to perfect your ammunition, you'll find that these things are set out. So this might be factory all the way in here. I might set it out another 50 thousandths so that the ogive of the bullet is just maybe 10 thousandths off the rifling in the barrel. That way when it's fired, it doesn't hang out in space for a while before it gets gathered up in that rifling and starts down there. So it's very common to have over-length bullets, especially in bolt action rifles. However, that won't work very often in some ARs and things because the tip of the bullet will not get down in the magazine or they'll get hung up. So there's a quick overview. I can't remember if I covered, if you're looking for used ones, you want to make sure this is nice and polished in here, that the mandrel for the neck sizing doesn't have scratches on it, and that's what there is for rifle. So I'm going to close out this video and then I'll make another one on pistols.